Hey, it's Dave with FlipperForce, and this is a quick case study on how to estimate costs for a cosmetic rehab project. In this case study, I'm going to run through a quick estimate using our Rehab Estimator tool and walk you through the scope of work of the project and price out the repairs. So for this case study, we're going to assume that this property is 1,500 square feet, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath property here in Kansas City, which is roughly the national average for pricing. Now, this property is in decent shape. There are no major structural issues or exterior repairs that need to happen. We're basically just going to be going through and painting the exterior, freshening up the landscaping, and then on the interior, we'll be doing a light remodel to the kitchen and the bathrooms, painting the interiors, refinishing the existing hardwoods, and installing new carpet in the bedrooms and new fixtures throughout the property. So let's get started. I'm currently in the repair estimator and I'm going to use our rehab template, which provides a detailed breakdown of common rehab categories, repairs, and prices that can help you get started estimating your repairs. So as I mentioned before, on the exterior of the property, we're really just going to be freshening up the exterior with some new exterior painting, some new landscaping, and maybe a new address and mailbox, stuff like that. So let's get into the exterior painting of the property. A lot of times on the exterior painting, I will use just kind of a quick budget or a quick rule of thumb to quickly calculate the painting. So generally I'll just multiply the property square footage by $2 a square foot. So the rule of thumb is maybe $2 to $3 a square foot. 2 times your property square footage of 1,500 square feet would give you a rough budget of $3,000 to paint the exterior. But you could definitely go through and you could quantify all of the siding if you wanted to go around the perimeter of the property, measure all of the surface areas and come up with the total siding area. You could do that here and multiply it by a price per square foot. And then if you wanted to go through and estimate any kind of other detailed items like painting the exterior doors, stuff like that, you could do that. But a lot of times I'll just use that quick budget number of $2 a square foot, multiply it by 1,500 square feet or property square footage to come up with our budget. So our painting budget right now is $3,000. We're going to move on to our next item, which is going to be exterior doors. So we're not going to really be doing a whole lot to the exterior doors. We're going to be keeping the existing doors there, but we're going to be freshening it up with some new door hardware. So we've got a budget of about $50 per door latch and door lock, with $35 in labor. So our total budget for the 2 exterior doors that we have on this property is going to be around $170. And then our next item, we don't really have any windows, garages, concrete, asphalt, anything like that. But our next item is going to be landscaping. So again, you can go through and you can be as detailed as you want to be on the landscaping. A lot of times when I'm initially estimating the project cost for a project, I'll just throw in a lump sum number. So for example, I might say, I think we're going to have around $500 in materials. So that's going to include a budget for all of your shrubs, your plantings, and your mulch beds, stuff like that. And then just maybe a number for labor. So 250 bucks should cover 2 guys maybe going out there for a morning or an afternoon and going out there and installing new mulch beds and then digging holes and planting new shrubs. So we've got a $750 budget right now for landscaping, and that should cover us. Again, if you want to go through and be put together a detailed list of all of the different shrubs and plantings, you can do that. But generally I'll just throw in a lump sum budget there, and then once I get a property under contract, I can go back and plan my design to my budget. So again, I'm just going to throw about $500 in there for material for landscaping and then just kind of move on from there. The last section is really going to be miscellaneous exterior items. So this is where you can plug in other miscellaneous items like shutters or mailboxes or addresses and stuff like that. On this property, we're just going to assume we're going to install a new mailbox and then a new property address just to kind of freshen up the property number for the property. And that's basically it for the exterior. So you can see we have a $4,000 budget total for the exterior here. Most of that's going to be in the exterior painting. We've got a little bit in the exterior doors, and then about $750 there for landscaping and some miscellaneous items for about 250 bucks. But again, our total budget for the exterior right now is $4,000. Now we're going to move on into the interiors of the property. So again, we're just doing a cosmetic rehab, so a lot of it's going to be just painting, replacing fixtures, and just doing light remodels to the existing kitchens and bathrooms. The first item that we'll see on the list is demolition, and a lot of times I'll just estimate demolition by the hour. Since we're doing a cosmetic rehab, there's not going to be a whole lot of demolition work. That we're not tearing out walls or anything like that, but we are going to be tearing up the carpet. So I'm just going to plug in 16 hours of demolition, which might actually even be a little bit much, but 16 hours times 20, so $20 an hour is what we'd pay the laborers to do that work, so $320 total. So basically 2 guys going into a house for a day, tearing out the carpet, tearing out the miscellaneous stuff for a day is $320 budget. And then dumpster rental. So since we're not tearing out a whole bunch of stuff, but the carpet does end up adding up to quite a bit of material there, we are going to throw in a dumpster, but $500 is really more for like a 40-yard dumpster, so one of those big tall dumpsters, but we could really probably get a 20-yard dumpster, which might be more like $300. So I'm just going to decrease that to $300 for our dumpster. So you can see our total budget for demolition is $620. So not really going to have much for framing and insulation. A lot of times if the walls are kind of dinged up, or maybe there's some holes in the walls or scratches or stuff like that, you'll need to have somebody go through and patch the walls. So a lot of times I'll just kind of plug in a lump sum value of maybe $250, which will cover a drywall contractor coming in for maybe half a day to come in and patch some walls and sand down some walls. So I'm just going to plug in a rough allowance there just to prep some walls and get them ready for painting. And then we're moving on to our kitchen and bathrooms. So you'll notice we've got something called kitchen packaged and bathrooms packaged. So this is really for packaged kitchen allowances that we've got included in our estimate. So you can see we've got an economy kitchen to replace the cabinets and countertops and appliances. For an economy kitchen, you might be able to just throw in $7,000 for your budget, which should cover you. Same thing, which for your average kitchen, about $12,000, and then a high-end kitchen might be more like $25,000. So that's going to be used if you just want to quickly throw in a lump sum budget for a kitchen. Otherwise, you can go through and do a detailed takeoff of your cabinetry, countertops, and appliances down below. Same thing with bathrooms. We've got some budget numbers in here for doing a light remodel, for doing an average remodel, or a high-end remodel of a bathroom, and you can see those budgets over here on the right-hand side. But I'm just going to go through and I'm going to do a detailed takeoff of the kitchens and bathrooms just to kind of show you how all of that information can be estimated on your project. So cabinetry, we're not really doing anything to the cabinetry since this is a cosmetic rehab. We're trying to save some money on the cabinets, so we're just going to assume that we're going to be keeping the cabinets and maybe painting those cabinets, but we will need to replace the cabinet door pulls. So this isn't going to add up to a whole lot, but it's just another one of those little things that you need to consider when you're putting together an estimate. So in a small kitchen like this, there might be about 20 cabinet door pulls at $5 each. So you can see that adds up to about $200. Then next we're going to be doing countertops. So we would like to freshen up the kitchen with some new countertops, some new granite countertops. We're not going to get too carried away with something super high end. But we're going to do kind of a low end $45 a square foot countertop. You can definitely get countertops for even cheaper than that, maybe $30 a square foot, but we want to keep our budget high enough so that way we can pick out a color that will actually look good in our kitchen. And then that's going to come with an undermount stainless steel sink bowl. So a lot of times the cabinet countertop contractors will install that, so we're just going to add in some additional cost to account for that stainless steel sink bowl. And then we're just going to move on to the next section here. So you can see we've got about $1,700 in our budget for countertops. So next is going to be our appliances. So we want to install some new stainless steel appliances. You can see you can go through a detailed list here. Otherwise, we do have packages up here at the top. So I'm actually just going to plug in a package for the economy version, but I'm just going to increase that to $2,000. So generally you can probably get a stainless steel appliance package for around $2,000. You can definitely spend way more than that if you get something super fancy, but on this remodel we're just going to throw in $2,000, which should cover us. You can plug in other stuff like appliance delivery. Lowe's will include delivery for you. Appliance cords, stuff like that usually don't come with the appliances, so I'm going to plug that in there, which is only 25 bucks each, but it's always annoying when you don't have those appliance cords included in your budget and they end up adding up to $50 that you didn't include in your budget. So anyways, let's move on to the interior doors here. Interior doors we're going to be keeping, and we're just going to be painting them, but we are going to be installing new door hardware. So there's about 10 interior doors that need new door hardware, and those are about 10 to 15 bucks is what you can generally find those for, and they're pretty easy to install for the most part, so $15 on average for that. So $300 in new door hardware, installation and material. Interior woodwork, we're just going to assume that all the base is in good enough shape that we're going to be painting it. So let's move on to the interior painting. So again, similar to the exterior painting, I like to use a quick rule of thumb for estimating the interior painting. Again, you could go through and you could quantify all of the square footage areas of all the interior walls, all of the ceilings, all of the trim, but a lot of times I'll just plug in the property square footage, multiply it by a rough budget per square foot, which is $250 a square foot, and you can see that gets multiplied out, so we've got about $3,700 in there for our budget for interior painting. So next, let's move on to carpet. So again, we are going to be installing the carpet in just the bedrooms. So in this property we've got 3 bedrooms. They're all kind of around 10 by 15 bedrooms, so 10 by 15 is 150 square feet each, times 3 bedrooms equals 450 square feet, and we're going to multiply that by about $2 a square foot, which is going to be basically an average grade carpet material. 450 times 2 is about $900 for our budget for carpet. So the next item on our list is going to be tiling. So I guess the question is, on your cosmetic rehabs, would you install new tiling, or would you just be installing a new vanity, maybe a new mirror, stuff like that? On this cosmetic rehab, we'll assume that we're going to be doing some new tiling on the project. So this is going to be just in the bathrooms. So our bathrooms are 5 by 7. So 5 by 7 times is equal to 35 square feet. 35 square feet times 2 bathrooms is 70 square feet in floor tile. So 70 square feet times $7, so we've got about $490 is our budget for just the floor tile. And then the shower tile, so if you're wanting to freshen up the shower tile in a bathroom, so let's assume that we've got 2 showers and they are basically the size of a tub, which is 5 feet by 3 feet. So, and then we'll say that it's about 5 feet tall. So the one side is going to be 3 by 5, that's 15, times 2, that's 30 square feet. And then 5 times 5 is 25, so each shower is going to be about 55 square feet. Let's just round that up to about 120 square feet for the shower tile. So now you can see our shower tile budget is $840. We've got a floor tile at 490 square feet. So total we've got about 1,500 square feet there. And then let's say that we're going to freshen up the backsplash in the kitchen. So maybe we're going to be installing some subway tile in the kitchen. Now $15 a square foot might be more something like a glass tile, so that fancy glass tile that you see, but let's decrease that to $10 a square foot, and we'll probably have around 30 square feet for the kitchen backsplash. So that should have us covered for installing all new tile in both bathrooms, and then installing a new kitchen backsplash tile in the kitchen. So you can see our total budget is around $2,000 for the tiling on the project. Now, hardwood flooring. So we've got our carpet flooring covered, we've got our bathroom flooring covered with the tiling. Now we just need to refinish the hardwood flooring that is going to be throughout the rest of the property, so mainly in the living room and kitchen area, which will be around 900 square feet. So you can see we've got floor refinishing here at $2.50 a square foot. So let's plug in 900 times $2.50, which gives us a budget of around $2,300. So that has all of our flooring covered. Now we're going to move into the MEP section. The MEP section stands for Mechanical, Electrical, Plumbing Systems. So plumbing wise, we're really just going to be installing new fixtures in the kitchens and the bathrooms. So you can see the first section is really for plumbing rough-ins. So that's going to be more for if you're doing a lot of plumbing, new plumbing piping and stuff like that. But you can see we've got kitchen plumbing work. So let's install, we're going to be putting in a new faucet fixture. So we've got basically $125 in there for material for that new fixture, a new garbage disposal. We need our plumber to hook up and install the dishwasher that we are going to be installing. And then he also needs to hook up the water supply line for the refrigerator. So you can see that's our budget there so far for the kitchen is about $500 in plumbing. And then the bathroom plumbing work, so this is going to be for the new toilets. So let's say we're installing a new toilet, and then we've got a new bathroom faucet fixture. So let's assume that the shower itself, the shower tub itself is in good shape, so we don't need to replace that, but we're also going to be installing a new shower kit. So the new shower tub kit with the new shower head, we'll be installing that as well. So basically overall you can see we've got about $1,800 in here for plumbing fixtures, for basically just installing new plumbing fixtures in the kitchen and then in our bathrooms. HVAC, so again we don't have any major HVAC improvements, but one of the things that you'll likely want to do on a cosmetic rehab is if your property has old supply air registers and grills, you might want to replace those. So you can see we've got those items down here: replace supply air grills and returns, and those are about 15 to 20 bucks each, and they're pretty easy to install. So let's say we've got about 10 of those in the property, but you can see that still, even if they're that cheap, when you have that much quantity, it still adds up to about 300 bucks. So those are all kind of the little things that add up over time. If you miss those little things, next thing you know, you might be under budgeted by a few $1,000s. So one last thing would be the programmable thermostat. So a lot of times I like to install a new programmable thermostat in the property just to bring it up to date. So if it's got an old crappy thermostat, I'd like to replace it with a new one. So we've got that included in there now for about 100 bucks as well. And then finally, the electrical. So throughout the property, we're going to be installing all new lighting. So in the hallways, in the corridors, and in the front entry, we might have some ceiling dome lights. So it seems like there's usually about 3 to 5 of those in a 1,500 square foot property. We're going to be installing new ceiling fan fixtures in the bedrooms and one in the living room. And then you've got some exterior wall light fixtures. So on the front of the property, we're going to freshen that up, and then there's going to be one on the back of the property as well. So that basically installs all new lighting throughout the property here. And then let's take a look at the exhaust fan, smoke detectors, and carbon monoxide detectors. So since this is a cosmetic rehab, we may not need new smoke detectors on the property, but I'm just going to go ahead and plug in 5 new smoke detectors, which will install 3 new detectors directly outside the bedrooms, and then maybe 1 or 2 smoke detectors in the different living spaces throughout the property. So that wraps up the MEP section. So you can see we've got $1,800 in plumbing. That's for the new plumbing fixtures. We've got about $400 in the HVAC for the new thermostat and the new grills and registers. And then we've got about $1,600 in our budget for the new lighting fixtures and smoke detectors that we're going to be installing in the property. This is really more for just kind of general items like dumpster rental, stuff like that, temporary toilets. That's going to be for bigger projects. Architectural engineering, that's for hiring an architect or a structural engineer. And then building permits, you won't necessarily need a building permit for cosmetic rehab, but that's something that you'll want to check with your local building department. So you can see right now we're at around $22,000 for our budget. So we've got about $4,000 in our exteriors, we've got $14,000 on the interior, and then our MEP is going to be around $4,000 for a total of $22,000 for the project. So let's take a look at our adders real quick and finalize our estimate. If we look at the adders, this is what you're going to be using to add on additional costs to account for your location, for unforeseen issues, for your contractor's overhead and profit, labor tax, and material tax. So location adjustment is really for markets or areas that are more expensive than the national average. So if you are in, San Francisco or New York City or something like that, it's going to be 25 to 50% more expensive. So you can see 25% more expensive would add $5,500 to our budget, which would make it roughly $27,000. If it's 50% more expensive, you can see the same project, that's the national average, would be about $33,000 in San Francisco as opposed to $22,000. So that's something to consider, is to take into account that location adjustment. We do have some location modifiers here that you can explore if you are looking for your local market there. So take that into consideration. The next thing that you need to consider is contingency. So contingency is going to be used to cover any kind of unforeseen issues or repairs on the property. So if there's something that you're concerned about on the property, or you feel like you've underestimated something, or there's some risk on the property that you feel like you need to cover, that's what you can include there. A lot of times I'll include 10%, but you can see 10% doesn't add a whole lot to the budget. So that's only $2,200 on a cosmetic rehab. So if there's a concern that maybe the roof needs to be replaced or something like that, you also need to take in consideration, how much that amount is. So if there's a roof that's going to cost you $5,000 that you're worried about, 10% isn't going to cover it. So maybe you should increase that to 25%. Contractors overhead and profit. Now that's going to be used if you're going to be hiring out a contractor to manage the project. So a lot of times contractors or general contractors will charge 20 to 30% of the project value. So on a smaller project, $5,000 might not be worth it to them, so they might even be charging a higher percentage than 25%. So if you're hiring a general contractor to manage your project, that's another thing to consider, is you need to include their contractor's overhead and profit in your estimate as well. And then labor tax. So some jurisdictions do charge labor tax on remodel work. So I would check with your local jurisdiction to see if that's the case. And then otherwise, material tax is really just going to be the sales material tax that's charged when you purchase materials from the local home improvement store. So whatever that percentage is on your goods that you're purchasing, plug that in. I believe in Missouri it's around 8 to 10%. So it's just going to be 8% of the material amount on the project, and it's going to add that to your budget. So you can see we've got, let's decrease that to 10% there. You can see we've got basically another $2,200 added for contingency, just to cover kind of miscellaneous things that maybe we didn't anticipate on the project. And then we've got $587 in material taxes. So overall $2,700 is added to our budget. So our overall cosmetic rehab for this project is $25,000. So that's our budget there. If you want to see a breakdown of all of those costs, you can see it here as well. So a lot of times people will ask, how much does a cosmetic rehab cost per square foot? So you can see on the exterior of this property, we've got $3 per square foot. On the interiors, we've got $10 a square foot. Looks like a bulk of that is going to be, it looks like it's actually pretty evenly distributed, but you can see we've got $250 in painting, and then the rest of it's just kind of miscellaneously in finishes and stuff like that. So $3 for exteriors, $9 for the interiors, and then another $3 for MEP, which adds up to a total of probably $15 a square foot or something like that. So that's it. That's how to create a cosmetic rehab estimate using our Rehab Estimator tool. If you have any additional questions, feel free to shoot us an email or message in chat. Thanks.